All right, so the next one here, Ukraine wants the U.S. to strangle the Russian economy. So a senior advisor to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is calling on the U.S. to strangle the Russian economy by imposing tariffs on Moscow's trading partners, though the U.S. measures are realistically unlikely to hurt Russia. So this is Andriy Yermak, the head of Ukraine's presidential office. He said, quote, "The Russian economy, geared for war, cannot withstand the pressure and is holding on only through the sale of energy resources. It is possible to strangle the economy with secondary tariffs proposed in the USA," end quote. So President Trump has threatened to hit countries that are purchasing Russian oil with 100% tariffs, and a bill in the Senate would impose 500% tariffs on any country that knowingly engages in the exchange of Russian origin uranium and petroleum products. So either tariff rate would hurt the U.S. economy more than anything, I believe, because China and India are major purchasers of Russian oil. You put a 500%, 100% tariff on China, we're certainly going to feel that. And, so as we've been talking about this a lot, I really have doubts that they're going to go with those huge tariff rates. But President Trump has announced a 25% tariff on India and some other kind of trade penalty that he didn't specify. And, this is part of his trade negotiations with them, I guess. And, he listed as his reasons for doing it, India's trade barriers and also India's trade with Russia. And then there's some reports that said India was going to stop buying oil from Russia, but now Indian officials are saying, no, we're not going to stop buying oil from Russia despite the U.S. threats. And then, of course, China is saying that, they're not going to buckle to these threats from the U.S. So, when Ukraine says they think this will strangle the Russian economy, realistically, I think there's a good chance that this could help Russia because it would make China more reliant on it for trade. If the U.S. really imposes some huge tariffs, it could just move China and India more in Russia's direction. That could end up being the consequence of it. And Russia's also made clear that it is not fazed by the ultimatum from Trump. The new deadline is August 8th. So I guess we're going to see some tariffs by August 8th if the war is not over, and the war is certainly not going to be over by then. So there's a little back and forth between Medvedev, the former Russian president, who's the head of the deputy head of the Russian Security Council now. This was really crazy. So in response to the U.S. ultimatum, this is what Medvedev said. He said, "Each U.S. ultimatum is a threat and a step toward war, not between Russia and Ukraine, but with Trump's own country." So basically saying these ultimatums and threats are a step closer to a direct war between the U.S. and Russia. So Trump responded, and Trump has mentioned Medvedev before. Medvedev is very hawkish. He's been very outspoken. He does say some things that are pretty out there and make veiled threats, veiled references to nuclear weapons. And most, everybody, I said on X after Trump announced this that he should just ignore Medvedev like most people do. But this is what Trump did in response. He said that he was positioning nuclear-armed submarines in response to Medvedev's rhetoric. Trump wrote on Truth Social on Friday, quote, "I have ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the appropriate regions just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. Words are very important and can often lead to unintended consequences. I hope this will not be one of those instances," end quote. So it doesn't seem like Russia really had a reaction to that, and hopefully it doesn't really mean anything, considering that U.S. nuclear submarines are just all over the world as they're deployed anyway. But it's still just a crazy thing to say, to bring it to that level of just kind of rhetoric and hinting at things and saying, oh, we're actually deploying nuclear submarines in the appropriate positions, in the appropriate regions, to be prepared for nuclear war with Russia. I mean, it's just a really crazy thing to just throw out there.